Hey, what's going on, folks? This will be the second part of the plot leak discussion that I had with A Dawn of Ice and Fire. This episode focused more on the Lannisters attacking down in the south and the arrival of Euron Greyjoy. So let's get right into it. Okay, episode 2, it says Jon gets a raven from Daenerys, telling all the Northern Lords to meet her on Dragonstone to parley. Jon and Davos decide to go to ask for some of the dragon glass stockpiled on Dragonstone. Sansa is left in charge of Winterfell, and Jon leaves Ghost behind too. Dorne and Highgarden get sacked by the Lannisters early in the season. Jaime confronts Olenna Tyrell at Highgarden. She tells Jaime everything about how she and Littlefinger poisoned Joffrey. Jaime allows her to drink poison and kill herself before being captured. Euron's fleet destroys Yara Greyjoy's and takes her prisoner. Theon escapes by jumping overboard and is rescued by other Ironborn. Euron Greyjoy attacks Dorne as well, killing 2 sand snakes and capturing Alaria.
Okay, so that's it for episode 2.
Yes, sir. What do you think about that?
Okay,
That 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 one's a little more action packed.
it is. Uh, Now I have to ask about Dorne and Highgarden getting sacked by the Lannisters because let's look at this from a military standpoint, right?
Okay.
So right now, the Riverlands really should be a place of turmoil. And I don't know, people might be wondering, like, well, why the hell is he talking about the Riverlands? Well, if Walder Frey just got killed, there's most likely going to be a Frey civil war for who controls the twins, unless Arya killed all the damn Freys, in which Edmure would be back in control of Riverrun, which means the Tullys would be back in control of the Riverlands, which means the Lannisters should have to fight to get through the Riverlands, go past King's Landing and the Stormlands in order to reach Highgarden and Dorne. So I want people to think about that one there. All right. But okay, let's say for whatever reason the Lannister army is already in King's Landing and they decide to march from King's Landing because you got to remember the Reach, Highgarden and Dorne are two separate places. You know,
Right.
uh, they're separated by a vast distance, so I don't understand necessarily how you would have the Lannisters be able to sack both of these places at the same time because that would really have to thin out their forces. And as we saw, Highgarden still has a pretty substantial and fresh army that hasn't had to fight in a while. So sacking Highgarden and Dorne because they decided not to use the water gardens or um, Sunspear specifically. Yeah, I'm not sure how they plan on telling that coherently, but I'll give them a shot on that one.
There's no way they're going to be able to send the entire Lannister army either because Cersei's going to need some kind of force there to protect the crown while Jaime's gone.
I mean, well, the City Watch is 2,000 strong, I believe.
Okay, I was wondering if the number is still that.
Yeah, it should still be somewhere around there. So as long as the City Watch is still around and no one goes and opens any gates, or if they can't find any way of passing the gates, they should be able to hold King's Landing without any particular issue. But yeah, again, I'm just wondering how are they supposed to sack Highgarden and Dorne at the same time. But it is what it is on that one.
Yeah, do you think they would not leave more Lannister forces in King's Landing, though, considering Dany's going to land on Dragonstone in the very first episode? Do you think Cersei is going to be able to see that big ass fleet arriving?
I mean, well, I think just from what you said about Euron, and I was actually going to talk about him next. Euron, capturing a couple of sand snakes and capturing Yara, obviously he meets them somewhere out at sea, which
Yep.
means that Danny decided to split her forces. Uh, I don't know why she would necessarily split her forces, but apparently she decided to take, some of her people just to Dragonstone, and then I guess the rest were supposed to go about their own way. And it's funny because like I actually didn't mean to be this analytical about it, but it's like the more I think about it, the more things start to open up, and it's like, wait, how are they supposed to be able to do that?
Yeah, I think one reason Danny may split up her forces is I think she may try to establish herself in a complete circle around King's Landing. So she may try to land on Dragonstone and set up shop. She might send some of her forces to like Storm's End and all the surrounding areas and try to basically close Cersei in.
I mean, that's a good strategy, but the question I would have to ask is how was it that you had basically two parts of her navy that were attacked and she wasn't? Because the way that it makes it sound is, as though she just kind of rolled into Dragonstone, set up shop, and everything was good to go on her end. But what happened to the Dornish and the Ironborn then?
Yeah, I questioned this the first time I read it too. I said, like, obviously we don't know how close Yara's fleet is to Danny's fleet at this point, but I was wondering, would Danny just allow the Greyjoy fleet get attacked like that without at least sending her dragons like back there? Like, would her dragons just fly overhead and not react to that?
Right. So, again, uh I'm not gonna like nitpick the hell out of it. I mean, maybe they have a way of telling it, because remember, us getting the plot leaks doesn't mean that the way that it's being read or the way that it was typed out or whatever, that doesn't mean that that's the way that actually the episodes might be edited.
Right. And we kind of know from spoiler photos, we can see some of the directors on set, so we can have a pretty good feel for some of this shit, like what episode some of it's actually going to take place in. Like we know the director who's doing episode 4 and 5, I believe, is going to be filming the battle scenes with the Lannister army and Tarly forces. So we kind of know that's going to go down in the middle of next season.
Right. So, you know, um, it's going to be interesting to see like how they actually edit it in terms of telling it in a narrative way. Um,
Absolutely.
but let's move on to Euron. Euron Greyjoy, coming out with a vengeance with his thousand ships from thin air.
Yes, sir.
I personally think that Littlefinger has used his teleporting service in order to provide uh, the Ironborn with the timber in order to build those thousand ships.
No shit.
Yeah, I mean, look, we know Littlefinger's teleporter has been hard at work. I mean, he got Varys from Dorne to yeah, he got him from Dorne to Essos, and then on the ships and all that stuff. So I think Littlefinger is really the MVP of this show. I think people sometimes don't realize how integral to everything he is, because without him and his vast technological network of teleportation devices, there's a lot of the show that wouldn't be able to happen the way it does.
Do you think Lady Olenna is going to confess to Jamie?
I mean, at this point, she might, because you got to think about it like this, right? Jamie Lannister, his name is Mud. No matter what he does, the only people that really see him of having any kind of redeemable qualities are Cersei and Brienne. So everyone else, they're not going to care whatsoever. And because of this, whenever he does things like, look, he went off to quell the rebellion in in the Riverlands and get River Run back to the phrase, right? Comes back, he's still uh on the same side as Cersei, and now he's sacking Highgarden. Olenna has absolutely nothing left of her family. None of her family. She's the last person in her family, at least in the show. And so she's gonna, already die anyway. You know what? Fuck it. I might as well tell you, yeah, I killed your son because, that fucker was crazy, just like Cersei, and if I should have probably killed her instead.
Yeah, I actually think she could say something like this too, just as kind of like a fuck you.
Yeah. So, um, and at that point, Jamie is probably gonna be like, "Yeah, I get it. I understand. I'm really not liking what my sister's doing right now, and you know what? But you're gonna have to die for killing my family. But I'll let you kill yourself. Just to show you that, yeah, I actually do have a little bit of honor."
Do you think Olenna Tyrell is going to take herself out like that by drinking poison?
It's D&D. Anything's possible.
Okay, so what do you think about Euron capturing the sand snakes in Yara? Have you seen those spoiler photos of him taking them through King's Landing?
I have, and depending on which version of the plot leak you get into, I mean, that's either like I think he parades them around in the second or third episode.
Yeah, something like that.
Um, excuse me. Um, so yeah, that's pretty interesting. That he is able to capture them and basically be parading them through the streets of King's Landing. And I know there's a lot of people out there who are elated at that news because they hated the Sand Snakes.
Yeah, people just want to see Dorne gone.
Yeah, I mean, look, unfortunately, Dorne was not done right. And for anyone out there who's like, "Oh, you guys, you book purists, blah blah blah," like, no, it's not about that. It's about Dorne just wasn't done right. Forget about the book stuff at all. Like, tell me that you're actually satisfied with what's happened in Dorne.
I'll tell you one thing. Oberyn Martell was phenomenal, but the Sand Snakes are just terrible actresses, in my opinion. They do not convince me the slightest.
I mean, I don't look. I can't really blame the actresses. I think they. I think they did a. I think they did the best job with what they were given. To quote Lady Crane.
That's fair. That's fair. They were given a pretty bad story.
Right. And I'll be honest with you. I had a lot of high hopes for Dorne when I saw Oberyn Martell in season 4.
Yeah,
You
he was
know,
great.
Pedro Pascal did an awesome job playing Oberyn, and I was hoping that the legacy would continue, especially when they got Alexander Siddig as Doran Martell. For those of you who may not know about this, Alexander Siddig was a pretty well-known actor in the 1990s.
Wasn't he on Star Trek?
Yeah, I was just about to say Star Trek, Deep Space Nine. It's Dr. Julian Bashir, and I thought he was a phenomenal choice for Doran Martell, and they totally wasted him.
Yeah, he complete waste.
But again, I don't want to dwell on the bad stuff. Let's go let's go back some more into the episode. Yeah, was there anything else that we're missing from this one?
Well, there's something I want to ask you. What do you see happening to the Sand Snakes and Yara Greyjoy now that they are prisoner under Euron Greyjoy and in King's Landing? What do you see happening to them?
I mean, well, look, I don't think you can necessarily kill off Yara. Yara has become kind of a fan favorite, so you don't kill off Yara. But the Sand Snakes, oh, the Sand Snakes, even the ones who weren't dead, because look, as much as we love seeing Tyeen's breast, I don't think that's going to be able to save her. and we haven't seen Ilaria naked, so not going to save her either.
No, I actually think Cersei's going to sick the mountain on him.
I could see that because you have the two people who should want to get revenge on the mountain there. So of course, I can see Cersei saying, "Hey, you know what, Sir Gregor, finish the job that you started with Oberyn Martell."
Absolutely. Somebody actually, and man, I apologize for not remembering this person's name, but they left a comment on one of my videos that was very interesting, I thought. They said, will the Sand Snakes have a chance to actually kill the mountain, like via poison, while they're actually prisoner?
Well, here's the thing, though, right? Because he's already been poisoned,
This is
and,
true.
and Qyburn brought him back. I think, other than chopping off his head or burning him to death again, uh, yeah, I think that's the only way that you can stop the mountain is either you gotta put him in a wildfire explosion where he gets disintegrated, or someone comes and chops off his head.
Okay, that's very interesting. I was wondering, they left a comment and I thought that was pretty interesting. I thought maybe they could concoct some kind of super poison, but like you said, he was poisoned before he was saved, so maybe he is kind of built up some type of immunity to poisons at this point.
I mean, think about it, right? Between him getting poisoned and then that sparrow burying whatever that thing was in his chest and it not doing anything to him, I just like I said, I think other than him being disintegrated by a wildfire explosion or having his head chopped off, yeah, I just don't think that anything is going to be able to stop the mountain.
Yeah, you may be absolutely right, man. Would you like to move on to episode 3?
Sure, sure.
Okay.
Let's go to episode 3.
So after going over this episode, it appears that the Lannisters are still going to be a big threat, even with the arrival of Daenerys and Dragonstone. If all of this is true, it looks like Dorne and Highgarden are finished. Lady Olenna is going to die, and the Lannister flag will be planted at House Tyrell. The Sand Snakes are pretty much doomed. It looks like Euron kills a few of them out at sea, then takes the rest prisoner, along with Yara Greyjoy. And as Euron parades his new prisoners through King's Landing, it looks like this is going to be the beginning of a new alliance between Euron and Cersei. So even though Dany has arrived with her fleet and dragons, it looks like the Lannisters are still alive and causing problems. Then you add Euron to the mix, and things are looking to be very interesting for Season 7. So I thank you guys for stopping by and listening to this Part 2. I hope to see you guys in the next one during Part 3. Don't forget to go over to a Dawn of Ice and Fire's channel and subscribe over there. I appreciate all you guys who already have went and done that. His channel has over 2,000 subscribers now. I really appreciate that. Comment below and let me know what you think about all this stuff. And I will see you guys down in the comment section. Bye.
Asked about Dorne and Highgarden getting sacked by the Lannisters because let's look at this from a military standpoint, right?
Okay.
So right now, the Riverlands really should be a place of turmoil. And I don't know, people might be wondering, like, well, why the hell is he talking about the Riverlands? Well, if Walder Frey just got killed, there's most likely going to be a Frey civil war for who controls the twins, unless Arya killed all the damn Freys, in which Edmure would be back in
Garden. She tells Jaime everything about how she and Littlefinger poisoned Joffrey. Jaime allows her to drink poison and kill herself before being captured. Euron's fleet destroys Yara Greyjoy's and takes her prisoner. Theon escapes by jumping overboard and is rescued by other Ironborn. Euron Greyjoy attacks Dorne as well, killing 2 sand snakes and capturing Alaria.
Okay, so that's it for episode 2.
Yes, sir. What do you think about that?
Okay,
that one's a little more action-packed.
it is. It is. Now I have to control of River Run, which means the Tullys would be back in control of the Riverlands, which means the Lannisters should have to fight to get through the Riverlands, go past King's Landing and the Stormlands in order to reach Highgarden and Dorne. So I want people to think about that one there. All right. But okay, let's say for whatever reason the Lannister army is already in King's Landing and they decide to march from King's Landing, because you got to remember.
Hey, what's going on, folks? This will be the second part of the plot leak discussion that I had with A Dawn of Ice and Fire. This episode focused more on the Lannisters attacking down in the south and the arrival of Euron Greyjoy. So let's get right into it. Okay, episode 2, it says, Jon gets a raven from Daenerys, telling all the Northern Lords to meet her on Dragonstone to parley. Jon and Davos decide to go to ask for some of the dragon glass stockpiled on Dragonstone. Sansa is left in charge of Winterfell, and Jon leaves Ghost behind too. Dorne and Highgarden get sacked by the Lannisters early in the season. Jaime confronts Olenna Tyrell at Highgarden.
The Reach, Highgarden and Dorne are two separate places.
Right.
They're separated by a vast distance. So I don't understand necessarily how you would have the Lannisters be able to sack both of these places at the same time, because that would really have to thin out their forces. And as we saw, Highgarden still has a pretty substantial and fresh army that hasn't had to fight in a while. So, sack